Sheikh Ramsey. You've built me up to a position that I cannot hope to emulate whatsoever in my few remarks. But it's good to see everybody, as has already been mentioned. It is a very serious subject. Modern slaves are cheap. Historically, human slaves were always expensive, around $40,000 in current money. But today, the average slave is costing around about $90. That gives you some idea of the comparison. So it means that increasingly, people who fall into this terrible category are seen as disposable inputs for production. And I've been asked to say a few words about the economics of trafficking. So when slavery was abolished in the UK in 1833, surprisingly these days, compensation was given not to the slaves, but to the slave owners. And it constituted, when it was given out, some 40% of the Treasury's tax receipts at that time. And it was given out to former slave owners. But of course, as I've said, nothing to the liberated people, so it was very controversial. Take an example. William Gladstone's father was given the equivalent of some £10 million in today's money in compensation for losing his 2,508 slaves across 9 plantations. Following emancipation in Washington in 1862, during the American Civil War, not the general emancipation that followed in 1865, but in the District of Columbia, compensation was paid to slave owners on the basis of the US Constitution, which states that citizens are entitled to compensation if the state expropriates their property. So slaves were seen not as human beings, but as property to be compensated for if there was an emancipation. We all know human traffickers are in it for the money, with an estimated annual global profits of something like $150 billion, but more of that in a moment. They victimize, have you seen, 25 to 50 million people worldwide, with 80% in forced labor and 20% in sex trafficking, adults and children. For many years, sources have indicated that the modern slavery business generated annual profits worth at least that figure of 150 billion. It was an estimate made by the International Labour Organization in 2014, and it was based on 2012 data. And to give you some idea of how this is escalated, it considered profits generated by forced sexual exploitation, domestic work, forced labour in agriculture, and other economic activities. It excluded forced marriage. The 2014 study suggested that commercial sexual exploitation generated something like $99 billion a year, and the remaining $51 billion came from forced labour in the private sector, including domestic work, farming, mining, fishing, construction, logging, and other parts of the global supply chain. Hope for Justice, an organisation, however, in August of last year, estimated that modern slavery and human trafficking generate illicit profits of well over, have a guess, not 150 billion, but $245 billion every year, again excluding forced marriage. That, incidentally, was for the year 2021, so today it will be even greater. The Home Office here domestically have estimated that the market size of human trafficking for sexual exploitation in London alone is around 126 million. And one report estimates that a child sold in the UK costs £16,000. Now, enough of the statistics. You've already heard about the indications of modern-day slavery. But frankly, this is in our midst, and most people are unable to spot it. Health professionals, people like that, probably can if they know what they're looking for, or if they actually are alert to the fact that they're looking for it. But where do we find modern slavery? It is in poverty, where people are easily taken in by the traffickers and actually paid money, which they've not seen before in their lives. It is in all sorts of lack of education, where people without that cannot get a job, and so therefore they are more prone. People who are at risk of health issues being offered treatment and then being lured into slavery as a result. These are all the things, and just to give you that brief idea, makes you realize that this is all around us. And very often we can't spot it because we're not looking for it. And that's one of the things I hope all of us will go away from today, actually being more alert and more alive to where modern day slavery and trafficking can be found, and to ensure that actually we are alert. And moreover, most importantly, we are talking to health and education and other professionals saying, you've got to look for this, because actually it's in places you're probably least likely expecting to find it. So if that is the one message that leaves today, I think it will be well worthwhile. Thank you very much indeed.